Hayim Cohen has been arrested for sexually abusing his adopted sons. He has adopted 9 boys and has hosted multiple foreign exchange students, one who has also accused him of sexual abuse. He has also pretended to be a Hasidic Jew and raised his children as such. But it turns out he's not Jewish at all. Hey everybody, welcome to the True Crime Squad. I'm Kristi Brower, here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey Katie.
Hello.
Hello, happy Monday.
Yeah, hitting the ground running.
Yes, we are. How's it going?
It's going well. What can I say? I mean, I want the snow to leave. I've had enough. I miss my crows, and I'm all done with this.
There you go.
But otherwise, really, I'm actually just fine.
True. I hear you though, because the snow is not leaving. It is continuing to come, which is such a weird thing for us in March. We don't usually get a lot of snow in March, but we have had a ton of snow in just a few days of March.
Yeah, the snow right now is flush with my bottom step, which is really weird to step outside and there's only one step, not two.
Yeah, my backyard, I've never seen it this deep because my son shovels trails for our little dogs because we have dachshunds, and our snow is probably twice as tall as them when they're in their tunnel.
Yeah.
You know, they're like real tunnels now, not just paths. They're like actual tunnels. It's so weird.
Well, when we were little girls, we were born up very near the Grand Tetons.
Yeah.
And that area gets a lot of snow. It used to get a lot of snow. When we were little girls, the snow would be flush with the house, with the roof.
Yeah.
In the winter, you could you could run around on top of the swing set.
Mm-hmm.
And you were always under death threats from mom and grandma to not be getting on the house and running around.
Yeah, because you totally could. Totally.
You could step right from the snowbank right onto the roof. It was no issue. And we did and got in trouble a time or 3, but
yeah. We were kids.
We don't get that much snow anymore. But man, I can remember then the snow plow would come down the roads and it was literally like driving through a tunnel. You really couldn't run off the road because there was nowhere to go.
No, you would just be in a snowbank. That's where you would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Craziness.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we get some sun.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. I don't know.
I
don't know what to expect. What I do know is that this episode is a real doozy. So hang on to your butts. We're going to start with some crime news.
Okay. Do you guys remember last summer I reported to you on the murder of Jeff German?
Yes.
Okay, this is Jeff German. He was a reporter in Las Vegas, an investigative reporter, and he reported on things that pissed people off. He was that kind of a reporter that really, kind of dug into stuff. Well, Jeff was murdered in his yard. He was stabbed to death. These were the photos that came out initially. That there was this man walking down the street that ambushed him and stabbed him to death on his side yard.
Right.
And then it wasn't very long, and this man was arrested. This is Robert Tellis, or Tellis. Robert worked for the city. He was a city attorney, I believe, and Jeff ran a series of stories about him. Basically, that there was impropriety in his office, that he was having an affair with one of his staffers, and that his office was a mess essentially, and that they weren't getting anything done. And he and Robert really did battle on Twitter for a few months, and eventually I believe it did cost Robert his job and I think his marriage. Like life really fell apart for him because of this, or was kind of in the process of falling apart. And he was the one arrested for murdering Jeff German.
Right.
Well, he's been in court. He's been through 3 attorneys already. He is really trying to expedite his trip to trial, and he's now decided he's just going to defend himself. And so he was in front of the judge last week, and the judge questioned him for 45 minutes, trying to determine if he really was capable and qualified to represent himself, which is kind of wild because he is an attorney. He's not a criminal law attorney,
Mm-hmm.
but he is an attorney. I was thinking about some of the other cases we've seen where people represented themselves that was pretty freaking wild.
Where they were not attorneys.
Definitely not attorneys. Darrell Brooks, we're looking at
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yeah.
This guy is, but she still was extremely hesitant about allowing him to represent himself, though it looks like he's probably going to, because, no one can do it as good as him. He's been through 3 attorneys.
Mm.
The reason I'm bringing it up now, and I'm going to share a little clip of court with the judge as well, is because I really wonder if this will become one of our belligerent turd circuses that we follow, because
Mm-hmm.
it is.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
So,
His behavior in court is something else.
yeah. So this isn't particularly wild. I really want you to see the judge in action, and also it's a female judge and the way he responds to her. So here we
Mm-hmm.
go.
How many of those do you think you did?
Probably half a dozen or so.
So 6? DUIs and/or battery, domestic violence?
Correct.
Have you ever represented anyone on a felony?
No.
Okay. Did you take any criminal law classes
I did,
in
Your Honor.
law school?
Criminal law and criminal procedure. Yes.
Okay. Do you think that has equipped you to represent yourself?
Not just that, Your Honor.
Okay. Go ahead, tell me.
Certainly.
Why do you want to represent yourself?
Again, there are a few different concerns, to be frank. I want to make sure that, number one, because we unfortunately couldn't see eye to eye on when the trial should be, me and Mr. Sheets. Again, Mr. Sheets, great attorney, really good man.
Yes, he is.
But yes, but
That's why it's kind of surprising
Sure.
you would put yourself in this position.
But again, this is a temporary situation. I intend to represent myself for at least a couple of months while I make sure that I'm in a position to hire another attorney. Because again,
Okay, no,
Yeah,
we're
no,
not
no,
playing
let me
games,
ask
okay,
you-
so Mr. Tellis, we're
Sure.
not playing games.
All right.
You're not gonna represent yourself for a couple months and then hire someone else. If you wanna hire someone else, that's fine. I'm gonna give you an opportunity to do that.
well, I want to represent myself, Your Honor.
He's going to do it himself.
Yikes.
The way
The judge has got his number, though,
she
and
does.
I appreciate that. I would imagine she's asking those questions because there's more concern because he is an attorney.
Maybe so. Maybe
I
so.
would think.
It was
Because
a
you can't just
45-minute
assume
long
to do
grilling.
it.
Mm-hmm. And he pretty much stood his ground. And I mean, he has the right to represent himself as long as the judge thinks he's sane enough and capable enough to do it, which
Mhm.
in this case, I would say that's probably true. But that whole, well, I mean, this is temporary. And she's like, no, bro, it isn't. You're either
Right, like how
representing
many
yourself or
chances
you're
do you
not.
think you get?
Right. Yeah. 3 now already.
Mhm.
So anyway, I don't know, you guys. I suspect that by the time this gets to trial, this will be one of those cases that we're going to be a little glued to because it's so freaking wild. So we'll see where it goes from here. But that's what I've got.
Yikes. Well, we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah. So I am going to kick the mic over to you for our main case.
Okay. Friends, I present to you this trash, Hayim Cohen. The first thing for you to know is that Hayim Cohen is not actually his name.
Yeah.
This man is from Odessa, Texas. He has been posing as a Hasidic Jew, at times actually posing as a rabbi, and in that process became an adoptive parent.
Mm-hmm.
He has now adopted 9 boys
Mm-hmm.
from the foster care system in Texas. He tells everybody that he is an Orthodox Jew, that he is from New York. Apparently, he talks about several different neighborhoods that he's from, and he tells a lot of stories. Let's just say this. This dude doesn't tell the truth about literally anything.
Oh boy.
His birth name is Jeffrey Lujan Vagil. And he changed his name back in 2010. He actually changed his name several times in 2010 to different Jewish names. It's like he was having trouble landing on the right one. I don't know, because it's not free to change your name. Seems weird.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing you got to know. There is no way that he is a converted Hasidic Jew with the last name Cohen. Cohen is the last name of like really high level priests, very sacred families in Hasidic Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a name that an actual convert would ever take because it's hella disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people in the Jewish community in the Houston area have indicated that they've met him. They don't believe that he's Jewish at all. He does things like, and let's just talk about, if you're going to be a liar, at least try to be a smart one. He tells people that he speaks Yiddish and Hebrew, and then has been unable to hold a conversation with another person in Yiddish.
Mm-hmm.
Stunner.
Someone who actually does speak Yiddish and Hebrew.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. Why?
So,
Why?
Right. Why? I'll tell you why. So we're going to get to the abuse in a minute. But when he first became a foster adoptive parent, and I'm going to tell you this from my perspective as a foster adoptive parent, I am absolutely furious about this case. He presented himself as a Hasidic Jewish man and as a rabbi. And on his initial application, it says he's a rabbi. And when it asks where he works, it says a foundation. A
foundation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sure. That tracks.
And it turns out Cohen actually has a criminal history that would have precluded him from being a foster adoptive parent. But you know who didn't check?
Oh,
Texas
wow.
DCFS. Let's just be honest here. We know Texas DCFS is trash. Okay. We've seen many cases come out of Texas.
They are a horrible hot mess.
He knew exactly what he was doing. He went to a state with a terribly dysfunctional DCFS system. He presented himself as this very pious rabbi. And you know what they didn't do? A background check.
My God.
And because they didn't do a background check when he adopted his first two kids, then they were like, he's already been vetted. No need to do any more work on him. And so then he proceeded to adopt 7 more children out of the system. And they didn't know anything about this guy. They had no idea he'd had a name change, that he has a criminal history. They don't know anything about it. Let me tell you, when we got our son, and we did get a little special treatment because we were a social worker and a counselor who knew him, who had a relationship with him. Mm-hmm. So they placed him with us prior to us becoming licensed foster parents. But you know what we did have to have before we got him? Background checks.
Of course.
Because even Rhonda and I, who have had tons of background checks in our careers, because anytime you change jobs, you have to have a new one. They still background checked us again before we were able to take him.
Well, as you would expect them to.
Yeah, as I would have been happy. I was happy to comply with absolutely everything they wanted us to do.
Of course.
Because I want to be sure that that's what's happening with everybody. Mm-hmm. They placed him with us as a kinship placement because we knew him. But they didn't, totally flake out on the stuff they're supposed to do to make sure that this is a safe place for children, right?
Yeah.
So let's fast forward to what's happening right now. Recently, his 17-year-old adopted son called into a podcast called Blind Skin Beauty. Sorry, it's hard to say for me because it doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, it's an advice podcast. He called in and he said, he kind of told his story. My adopted dad is molesting me. He's molesting my brothers. This has been going on since I was 11. I'm 17. I'm really scared. And I don't know what to do. He said he was waiting till he was 18 to be able to get out of there and then report it. But he was really afraid because this is not the first allegation there has been made against Mr. Cohen. And the kids in the past have denied it because he has threatened them and bribed them. These are children in the foster care system who have no one. They have no choice but to do whatever this man says. What else are they going to do?
Oh, yeah. So, they're in the most vulnerable position.
They are, absolutely. But he was afraid that he might be arrested for lying to the police or that they just wouldn't believe him. So he was, the host of the podcast kept him on for quite a while, trying to convince him to please call the police and also trying to get as much information out of him as she could so that she could do some research, right? Well, she managed, after they got off the air, to figure out who this kid is. And the reason she did is because Cohen has quite a YouTube and social media presence.
Of course he does.
This wonderful Hasidic man who is raising his... Oh, listen to this lie. He says that every single one of the kids he has adopted is of Jewish parentage. Which, no, they're fucking not. They've proven they're not. But you don't get to do that.
Right. Yeah.
You don't. Also telling all these stories about how all of the kids speak Yiddish and Hebrew, and they don't speak any of this. There are all these pictures, and I'm not going to share any because these are minors and they're victims, but there are all these family pictures of them dressed in their, traditional clothing with the ringlets to the sides, like, and their yarmulkes, like everything, dressed like Hasidic Jewish children.
Yeah.
With him, like he's the big hero. The other thing that you often see with Cohen is that he is in a wheelchair and that he is wearing an oxygen mask. Well, apparently, according to the kids, that's not true. He only wears that when other people are around or when they're out in public. And he actually have GoFundMes and raise money to help with his medical care.
Oh my God.
Except that he's a pedophile and a liar. So the podcaster tracks him down because of the social media presence and reports it to the police. And they actually managed to trace the call. The kid called in on a burner phone and he was on Wi-Fi because he was trying to protect his identity. But they found the IP address of that Wi-Fi call and actually found this kid.
Wow.
He has now admitted, yes, I'm the person who made that call. At first he didn't until they played him the phone call. They're like, dude, we have the recording. And so he admitted, yes, this is me. This is what's happening. And this is happening to my younger brothers too. There were 6 minors still in this house at the time. So they have all been placed back in DCFS custody, which that doesn't seem okay to me at all. Let's just put him back in the system that put him in this situation.
Yeah.
Great. There are 3 older sons who are currently supporting Cohen.
Oh boy.
The younger boys have said, yes, this is happening to us too, and they've reported. They are 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17.
Oh my God.
Let me tell you, maybe the worst part about this. He's been a foreign exchange host parent several times. Because, it's not weird at all that this single man wants all these boys around him. I can think of a pretty well-known doctor in my community who has now passed away who did the same damn thing.
Yeah.
So in 2019, a foreign exchange student that was living with them reported to his school that this man had sexually assaulted him. So he was arrested and then he bonded out. But what he was arrested for was like something like indecent exposure. It wasn't sexual abuse of a minor. However, when that happened, DCFS did not come take the children out of the home. And he has never faced any legal ramifications for that until now. This was in
Wow.
2019. This is 4
4
years ago.
years ago.
And he's continued to have these kids in his home,
And continued
continued
to
to
abuse
abuse them.
them. Oh.
No one at DCFS, that this case is private, so we can't say why
Mhm.
nothing was done the first time. Those kids should have been removed from that home then
Mhm.
until the investigation was complete. That is pretty standard practice. If there's any
Mhm.
allegation of abuse, that you remove the children from the situation until you're sure what's happening.
Yeah.
No one looked, no one gave a shit about these kids. So now they're
Unreal.
all in foster care. Cohen is in jail. His bond has been revoked. Basically, they revoked his bond on the initial charges from 2019. And then,
Mhm.
He's now charged with 11 charges of sexual abuse of minors. And these poor kids are back in the system, and he has just completely blown up their lives. The
Oh my God.
podcast host has stayed in contact with the 17-year-old and has offered to become a foster parent to some of these boys because she's just absolutely
Wow.
heartsick about this whole situation. And thank God for her, because she literally has saved their lives
Yep.
by, following up on what happened here.
Well, she really went the distance. So did the police to really
Yes,
narrow this down and take it
they have.
seriously.
They are
And
now taking it very seriously. But
Mhm.
why did they not take it seriously 4 years ago?
Well, probably because that kid left the country.
Well, and also probably because this is a prominent foster parent. He
Yep.
wouldn't do something like that. This is a
Right.
prominent adoptive parent.
We would hate to
I've
have to admit
seen
that.
some stuff like this before. Yes, number one, they
Mhm.
don't want to admit that they fucked up.
Mhm.
Number two, no state in this country has enough foster parents. And
Mhm.
Texas probably least of all, and that would mean, in this situation, 6 kids that needed
Yeah.
placement. Yeah. I hate to say that the system does stuff like that, but it does.
Yeah.
And this is such a gross example of negligence
Mhm.
on their part. None of this should have happened. He should
No.
never have gotten a single child,
No.
let alone 9 of them.
Yeah.
Ugh, I am absolutely just sick and horrified by this situation.
Yeah.
I hope these boys are in safe places. And can you imagine how confused
Yeah.
they are? They've been being told under threat of abuse that they are Hasidic Jews.
Yeah.
They have been living that way, homeschooled,
Mhm.
with really no frame of reference but him this whole
Mhm.
time. But that's not actually any of their backgrounds.
Mhm.
I imagine these kids don't have a clue who they are.
I would imagine that's true.
The
Yeah.
psychological damage, I think, is huge
Mhm.
here for so many reasons. The long-term fallout for them just breaks my heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kids in foster care are terrified.
Yeah.
And even when they're adopted, they're terrified for a long
Yeah.
time because they don't know if they can trust the adults who have taken responsibility for them.
Right. Well, for good reason. Adults have failed them over and over and over in their lives.
And when the abuse began, so the abuse always begins right after adoption,
Ah.
because when DCFS follow-up stops?
Mhm.
Adoption day. He knew that.
Mhm.
So that's when the grooming began, and then the abuse began, because then there was no one to tell. There was no worker coming to his house,
Yeah.
checking in on the kids. They weren't getting visits. The kids weren't getting. When we adopted Mike, it took us a year. It took us 6 months to become licensed as foster parents, and then
Mhm.
6 months to be approved as adoptive parents.
Yeah.
During that time, we had regular visits from workers. Every single time they came to visit, they spoke to him privately to ask him, "Are you okay? Are you safe? Are they taking care of you? Are they
Mhm.
hurting you?" Right?
Yeah.
The second that kid becomes yours legally, they never talk to you again.
Yeah.
So
And of course he knew that.
hopefully,
So
yeah. And the other children in the house were all, if there were already kids in the house for whoever came in new, they were all threatened under,
Mhm.
threat of serious harm to say nothing. And of course they would say nothing.
Mhm.
Where else are they going to go?
Yep.
Who do they have to turn to? Tell you who? Nobody.
Nobody.
All they've got is this sick fucker,
Well, and especially where they were homeschooled.
right?
They
They weren't
really
even,
had no
they were
access.
as isolated as they could possibly be.
Mm-hmm.
He used to take them to Jewish activities that were like more on the liberal side,
Mm-hmm.
because he took advantage of the fact that lots of people don't really understand the Hasidic culture.
Mm-hmm.
And also, he would say in their social media stuff that they would make adjustments to the way that they did things based on the way each child had been brought up in their Jewish home, which was just another way to cover for when he got it wrong, because he
Yeah.
did frequently get it wrong, because he has no actual history
Right.
in this culture at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Jewish organization that works to eradicate child sexual abuse, and they've been very vocal in this situation,
Mm-hmm.
and they are horrified by this whole
I'm
thing.
sure.
They've looked all into it to make sure that do they need to get involved, and they're like, this guy's not Jewish, and neither are these kids,
Yeah.
but they've been raised that they are. Oh, just absolutely livid. If you live in this
Horrible.
area, if you know about this guy, please be screaming to the rooftops at your local officials.
Yeah.
And everybody, please become very aware of what is happening in the foster care system in your state. Look up on your state website. It's our state. It's, I don't know. Everybody's got a different acronym, but it's always like Child and Family Services,
Yeah.
Department of Child Protection, something like that. You want to look up some stuff like, what are the statistics in your state? How many kids are in foster care?
Mm-hmm.
What is the need for foster parents?
Mm-hmm.
Find out stuff like that. Find out what's going on. Keep an eye on in the news on anything that comes up around foster and adoption situations in your communities. Because I will promise you there's some shit happening that you don't even know about.
Oh, that's for sure.
Because this stuff doesn't hit the mainstream news unless it's a big story like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are all kinds of smaller things that just slip by. But you should know, because you got to understand, Cohen has never had a job in the entire time he's had these kids.
Nope.
They get a stipend. Okay. We got about $425 a month for my son. And even after we adopted him, he kept his Medicaid and he kept that stipend until he turned 18.
Yeah.
So this guy just keeps adopting more kids so he can pay his own damn bills.
Yeah.
He only has a home with 4 bedrooms.
And they've allowed him to have that many kids?
Right. Because see, a part of adopting, in my experience, was an inspection of our house, determining, does this child have their own bedroom? Do they have the ability to have privacy and safety? Right? How do you have 9 kids in a 4-bedroom?
Yeah.
You can't. But
But
that's
Texas is so desperate to farm out kids that they apparently are just handing them to anybody.
Yeah. One background check would have blown this whole thing out of the water, and they never did it. They never did it in 9 adoptions.
Unbelievable.
Or they did at some point and realized how badly they'd fucked up and didn't tell anybody what that background check showed, because this is a huge disaster for them. But be aware in your community. This is a well-known problem with people who take way more children than they can take care of, because then they don't have to work.
Yep.
And I'm not saying every foster family does that, because they don't.
No.
But I've known a few that had 6 or 7 kids and neither parent worked, that really were red flags to me.
Yeah.
Like that, just no. Also, there have been all kinds of GoFundMes for this family.
Right.
Because dad is sick, don't you know?
Right.
And he's showing up in court. He's in court, so he's got all his bullshit in jail. He's got his wheelchair and he's got his oxygen. There's absolutely no proof that he needs either. And all of the kids say that he only used those things when there were other people around.
So gross.
So we will keep a close eye on this case because we want to watch this guy go away forever. And all I can do is just hope that these boys get the help that they need, because they're going to need some major help after this.
Yeah.
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 Well, Katie, it might seem like we just did some WTF news, but I know you have some more for us.
Oh, I do. Have you heard that recently in New York, New York City, a giant criminal kingpin has been taken down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's big news.
I didn't know. How did I miss this?
Well, you might have to be in the right kind of, I don't know, the world to really take advantage of or understand this. But this is what our kingpin was smuggling.
Pull your mic closer to you. You're cutting out on us. There you go.
Okay. I don't know if you can tell from the picture what this is.
Is that a bird?
That's a bird.
Oh.
These are hair curlers, like the hard plastic ones, like little old ladies might wear. And
Which
they are
I know.
stuffed with finches.
My God.
Let me tell you why. This man, this is the third time he's done it, smuggling finches from Guyana into New York for bird song competitions. Apparently,
What?
yeah, that's what I said.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. He's committed several crimes related to bird trafficking. And why is it a big deal? Well, you cannot traffic birds into the country for two reasons.
No.
One, because it's so dangerous for the birds. Many of them will die. It's
Right.
awful.
It's absolutely
And
horrible animal cruelty.
it is. And two, they can bring diseases into the U.S. with them that can really decimate our bird populations. Think about like the bird flu. You like that price of eggs right now? Well, that was from the bird flu. Not that he caused it, but these are things that we're trying to safeguard against. But the animal cruelty angle can be really terrible too.
Well, and invasive species can be a problem too, bringing something in that
Yes.
takes over from something else.
Mm-hmm. Now, he promised the court, I'm going to stay away from the birds because it's trouble. Is it now?
I think you're trouble, buddy. How was he? I know they're in the curlers. Do I want to know where he had the curlers?
In socks.
Okay, so this wasn't one of those down his
No,
pants
they weren't
situations.
up his
we've
butt
had.
or anything. No. At any rate, he's going to prison for 1 year and 1 day. But he is known as one of New York's Finch Smuggling Kingpins.
My God.
His attorney said he is incredibly remorseful for a crime fueled by a love of seed finches that dates to his childhood and provided him solace through many personal difficulties. What? What?
If he genuinely loved those finches, he would not be abusing them in this way. That is fucking ridiculous.
Turns out what he loves is money because
Mhm.
apparently songbird competitions are quite the big deal. Apparently they are really a big deal in the Caribbean. But they've come to the US as well, and songbird competitions are a big deal. And a songbird that will, do the best of the singing can be worth as much as $10,000.
Oh my God.
So what's really true here? It's greed. It's just greed. This is not a love of the birds. This is just greed, plain and simple.
Can't you just go out and listen to the finches and leave them the hell alone?
Not when they're worth $10,000.
We have to own them and then control them and make money off their song?
Mm-hmm.
God, humans suck, man.
I just was surprised to learn that New York had Finch smuggling kingpins, but now you know. It is a thing.
But he's been taken down. I'm not sure a year and a day is enough time, honestly.
Agreed.
Poor little finches. Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, for better or worse, that's our Monday episode, you guys. What the hell's going on? All I have to say is see something, say something, please.
Yeah.
Share when you know. Be the hero that podcaster is who saved these children from Hayim Cohen. I mean, at least they're safe now, I hope. At least they're out of that situation and we can get him out of the child adoption business.
Yeah, but it sure is hard to trust the Texas Department of Family and Children Services.
It genuinely is. Are these kids in any better situation now? I don't know. I don't know. Well, see something, say something. Learn about the foster care system in your area. Also, learn about the songbird contest system in your area.
Apparently.
Because that sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me when it comes to using animals like that.
Yeah.
So keep your ears open, my friends. We will be back tomorrow with another full episode. Of course, this is Monday, and you know it. We are the True Crime Squad. Thanks for being here.
Take care.